Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're gearing up to build an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU here in Denver, we need to have a serious talk right off the bat. You are basically stepping into a massive financial minefield. The hidden dangers out there are very, very real, and if you weren't careful, they are incredibly costly. But hey, don't sweat it too much because we're going to navigate straight through this together. Okay, 40 grand. Let that number sink in for a second. That staggering figure is the exact average amount a typical Denver ADU build goes completely over budget. It's an absolute sticker shock, right? I mean, we're talking about a massive 20 to 30% overrun on what should be a really straightforward, highly calculated investment. If you're looking at a $220,000 project, an extra 40 grand is a devastating financial blow.
And it's not just your hard-earned money you're losing either. 8 weeks. That is the average time these projects run behind schedule. But here's the thing. This delay, just like that huge budget overrun, isn't just random bad luck. It's born from a handful of highly predictable, fundamentally flawed assumptions that so many homeowners make. So today, we are going to systematically dismantle every single one of them.
So here's our game plan for getting through this explainer today. We'll start by mapping out the Denver ADU minefield, then dive into planning, permits, and people. After that, we'll unearth some hidden site costs, figure out how to survive the harsh Colorado climate, and finally, we'll break down the real cost in 2026.
All right, let's jump right into part one, the Denver ADU minefield.
Now, before we even think about comparing contractors or picking out countertops, we have to tackle the root cause behind these catastrophic overruns. And it all boils down to one massive trap: the remodel mindset versus the new build mindset. Listen, an ADU is not a simple deck addition. It's definitely not just a glorified kitchen remodel. It is a brand new, freestanding house. It requires its own engineered foundation, completely independent sewer lines, a dedicated electrical service, and its own HVAC system. It has to meet the exact same rigorous building codes for safety and energy efficiency as a giant 3,000 square foot new build. Applying a remodel mindset to a project like this, that is the ultimate trap.
Moving right along to part two, planning, permits, and people.
You know, the most successful builders out there will tell you that the real heavy lifting actually happens before a single shovel ever touches your backyard. So before you even think about calling an architect or a designer, do yourself a massive favor. Just spend 10 minutes on the official Denver Excella Citizen portal. You need to confirm your specific property's zoning and check for any hidden easements or restrictions. Seriously, skipping this one simple step can easily torch 10 grand in wasted design fees for a building that the city won't even legally allow you to build. All right, let's talk timelines, because I really want to bust this 6-month contractor myth right here and now. A realistic, legitimate build timeline in Denver for 2026 is going to take you anywhere from 9 to 14 months. You're looking at 1 to 3 months just to nail down the initial design, another 3 to 4 months just languishing in city permitting, a solid 6 months of actual heavy construction, and finally, getting to final occupancy around month 14. You've got to plan your life and your financing for this reality, not some overly sunny sales pitch.
So how do you actually find the right people to pull this off? Well, first off, please don't treat this like a personality contest. I know accepting that first friendly quote feels efficient, but it is a huge mistake that routinely leads to folks overpaying by 15 to 25%. Instead, follow this super strict, highly actionable formula. Step 1. Get 3 competitive quotes, no exceptions. Step 2, check 3 past references. And Step 3, physically go visit one finished job site. A reputable contractor in Denver won't mind this at all. In fact, they'll actively welcome that level of diligence.
Okay, so once you've got your vetted contractor, you absolutely need an ironclad contract. Vague scopes of work, where a line just casually says, install kitchen cabinets or tile bathroom floor, those are basically open invitations for disaster and budget spiraling change orders. You must specify absolutely everything up front. I mean, write down the exact make and model of the kitchen faucet, the specific Schluter waterproofing system model number for the shower, the exact R value of the wall insulation. That level of precision is exactly what stops your budget from spiraling out of control later on. Oh, and while we're talking about precision, a quick warning. Do not try to DIY the city permits as some sort of fun weekend project. Navigating Denver's community planning and development department is highly complex, and honestly, it can be a bureaucratic nightmare.
A single missed detail on a submission can literally set your project back for months. And a failed framing or insulation inspection, that means you're paying for costly rework and just sitting around waiting for the inspector to come back. You really need a contractor with a dedicated, experienced in-house permit specialist who knows the local officials and the processes inside and out.
Which brings us to part 3, unearthing hidden site costs. We really have to shift our focus to the physical dirt itself, because some of the absolute biggest costs are totally invisible, lurking right beneath the surface of your backyard. Assuming utility hookups are simple is a catastrophic financial error. Remember what we talked about earlier? You are connecting an entirely separate new dwelling to city sewer, water, and electricity. This requires extensive, deep trenching all across your property, plus paying some pretty hefty connection fees to Denver Water and Xcel Energy. This is never, ever just an afterthought that you can figure out later.
We are talking upwards of $35,000. Yeah, you heard that right. These hidden utility hookups can easily add 20 to 35 grand to your total project. And the crazy part is, casual estimates almost never include this figure. You have to demand a specific, detailed line item for all utility connections in every single bid you receive. Make the contractor sit down and explain exactly how they arrived at that number.
All right, part 4, surviving the Colorado climate. Because Mother Nature out here, she does not play around, and our local environmental challenges dictate your budget in massive ways. First off, the ground itself. Denver has this expansive bentonite clay soil that swells and shrinks dramatically. Standard foundations will just crack and get completely destroyed under that kind of pressure. You absolutely need a geotechnical soil report and a specifically engineered foundation. Above ground, our intense high-altitude UV radiation and those rapid freeze-thaw cycles we get will literally shred cheap exterior materials. You've got to invest upfront in durable products built for this environment. Stuff like James Hardie Color Plus siding and premium acrylic paints, like Benjamin Moore Aura Exterior. Otherwise, you are going to be replacing them in 5 to 7 years, guaranteed.
And finally, part 5, the real cost in 2026.
Let's just lay all the cards on the table. The raw truth is your 2026 baseline expectation for a well-built 600 square foot unit is going to sit between $210,000 and $280,000 all in. Data from the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment shows that skilled trade wages just continue to rise across the Denver area. It's a major investment. And that's primarily because those massive fixed costs, things like kitchens, bathrooms, and those super expensive utility hookups we just talked about, are being spread over a really small footprint. To really put that into perspective, let's look at 3 real-world projects to see how your specific design completely changes the math. On the lower end, we've got a Platt Park studio. This is a pretty straightforward rectangular build right on the ground that came in at $215,000. Then, a Highland carriage house, which required a lot of complex structural work because it was a second-story unit over a brand-new garage. Well, that hit $235,000. And finally, a Berkeley bungalow. Now, this used a slab-on-grade foundation, but it had high-end custom finishes and vaulted ceilings, and that reached $260,000. Your specific architectural choices, they drastically impact that final price tag. Which brings us to your ultimate safety net. The National Association of Home Builders has a very strict rule of thumb. You must reserve a 10 to 15% emergency contingency fund. Unforeseen issues are literally an absolute guarantee in construction. I mean, you might hit a literal massive boulder buried in your yard during excavation, or you might suddenly discover that your main house's electrical panel needs a huge, expensive upgrade just to support the new unit. If you budget down to the exact dollar of the quote, these surprises will absolutely force you into debt or force you to compromise on the finished quality. Do yourself a favor, keep this 15% protected in a totally separate bank account before you even break ground.
So I'm going to leave you with a pretty provocative question to chew on today. Is your current budget planning for a complex new home build or just a glorified shed? Because honestly, the difference in that mindset is tens of thousands of dollars out of your pocket. I really want you to leave this explainer feeling empowered. Rethink your mindset, steer clear of these super predictable traps, and plan meticulously. When you do all that, your ADU won't be a financial minefield. It's going to be an incredible value-driving asset for you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy building!